So let's continue with the second part of the explanation on Shamatha, on mental calm. So far, Dr. Namgyal explained the preparations for Shamatha, and he gave us a general explanation on the various possible meditation objects, the different ways one can focus one's awareness. Now, in the book, we are on page 51. And the question is, who should observe what? Actually, if I translate, I would say, when to practice what? Which focus is the one to choose at a certain time? And the answer of Tashi Namgyal is simply that all afflictions, whether we talk about attachment, aggression, bewilderment, pride, excessive thinking, and the various types of confusion, they each have a corresponding focus of meditation which helps to purify. Now, that needs a lot of experience to know which is the best focus for me when I'm in a certain trouble, emotional trouble. I will go quickly through with you. Of course, I explained that longer in the curriculum. When I feel I'm full of attachment, I need to find a way to meditate, a focus of meditation that helps to get out of attachment. There is very different ways. Sometimes I can get out of attachment by truly developing love. Because love and attachment, they don't go together. True love and attachment, they are not of the same nature. Attachment is grasping and wanting to possess, and love is a very warm, supportive, caring attitude. They don't go together. Sometimes when I'm in attachment, I can work with becoming aware of the changing and permanent nature of that what I'm attached to, or the person I'm attached to. But I can also contemplate on the impermanent changing nature of the one who gets attached. You see, you can choose, and you must try out the different examples which are given. And somehow I'm always in a kind of confusion. I sit down to meditation confused. So I have to find out what will help to clarify this confusion. I might be confused about just which impact my own thinking has, my own interpretations have in how I live the situation. So I have to relax those formative forces, the impact of my own influence, my own interpretation of the situation. I'm confused about just how much the clinging to myself as being so important influences the situation. Just how much I'm taking everything personal. And how much that's responsible for the present state of tension. I might be confused about interdependence. I might not see just how interdependent our existence is, that there is no way out being influenced by causes and conditions around. To contemplate on that, to meditate that, relaxes my resistance to interdependence. I cannot actually be a separate self. I just don't manage to get away from sounds, from physical sensations, from whether other people like me or dislike me. All of that, just can't get away. Even when I'm all alone, I carry the interdependence along. Because I'm all alone as a person in an interdependent situation with weather, temperature, food, and so on. Different conditions. So this confusion is very deep. I cling to solidity, like this idea of a stable partnership, in spite of all evidence of change, of impermanence. So when I see that that is very present, I will definitely choose that as a focus for my practice. For example, the loss of a beloved one is very painful if there was a confusion, an illusion as to the changing nature of the beloved one and our relationship. I need to meditate on that. I might be confused about the omnipresence of suffering, not seeing it, kind of looking for the escape. I might be confused about the origins of suffering. So I will need to meditate on just what causes the stress right now. There's a telephone call, my boss wants to see me tomorrow. So, stress. Why? And I see all these fears to have done something wrong, all the hopes to be promoted, the play of hope and fear arising with a simple stimulus. And this is stress. So I will meditate exactly with what helps there. I might feel very attached to sense pleasures, enchantment with sense pleasures. So I have my wonderful, calm morning meditation, and exactly then the neighbor starts his car and has problems and, is accelerating and looking and accelerating and looking again. And attachment to sense pleasure and the stress due to it. Or I'm in my calm morning meditation here in Grüner Baum and the neighbor decides above me, maybe above, decides to change the furniture in his room. And that happens, and it's the wrong moment. And then we meditate with that and how life is. We meditate always with a focus in our meditation that helps to dissolve the present stress, the dukkha that is there now. What is most dominant, the most dominant affliction, the remedy for that is our first choice. And then Dakpota Shinamya gives an advice on which objects of meditation to start with. Because now, of course, you're all completely desperate. You have learned about so many possible objects, focus of meditation. Now, Dakpota Shinamya, together with all other masters, says, choose one object of meditation to start with. One way of meditating which makes sense to you, which covers a large area of your being, that's what you should start with. For example, the breath. Because that's very helpful to meditate with the sensations of breathing in and breathing out. It's very helpful for the mind that is all over the place, thinking all kinds of things, having all kinds of emotions, and you don't know which one is dominant. Just breathe. And in the breathing, then other elements will come. You will see through the nature of those distractions arising while you try to focus on the breath and so on. Stay with one object. And you have the choice to either focus inward on the body as it is right now, physical sensation. Or you can focus inward on your self-image. You can work with the image of yourself being a Buddha, a Yidam, a deity. You can also focus inwards, for example, with a seed syllable in your heart, a symbol indicating your Buddha nature in the center of your heart. You can focus inwards by imagining that from this body, as you do, for example, the meditation of loving kindness or compassion, joy, then light rays emanate. This is the interconnectedness with all sentient beings, coming from within, extending everywhere. We can focus inwards also by using experiences of joy, bliss, happiness, and resting in them. So choose whether you want to focus inwards or focus outwards. And when I take care of people who want to learn meditation, it sometimes becomes obvious that there are people who are definitely better with focusing inward than with focusing outward. They feel this, and you should trust that feeling. Some people definitely feel better with focusing outward. It takes the stress away of being too much in touch with oneself and the whole inner cinema and so on. So to have an outer focus, again, this would be called an outer ordinary visual focus. Ordinary because it's simply objects from nature, a bowl with roses. Of course, I can give a significance to it. I can interpret these are red roses, symbol of love, but I can also just take it as visual form without deeper meaning. So that's called an ordinary worldly focus. Like I can also meditate on the sounds of nature. But I can also take a special spiritual focus. So turning it to me, turning it to you would mean that I use this Buddha which has come from China, a very old Buddha statue, representing the union of compassion and wisdom with the crossed hands, the presence of belonging to the 5 Buddha families with the crown, the crossed vajra with the stability of meditative absorption, and so on and so on. You see the moving, the very supple physical posture, this showing the flexibility, the suppleness of a freely flowing mind. So that is symbolic meaning here. We call this a special spiritual support, which by meditating on an object which has a meaning, stimulates certain qualities in us on purpose. That's what would happen to a person also who instead of meditating on the sound of the caterpillar outside would meditate on a CD running with mantra sounds in the background. Mantra sounds of which I know the meaning. Or producing the sound oneself and meditating on the sound one produces oneself. This has spiritual meaning. So we need to choose one object, inside or outside. And we start with that. And when we have come to a certain experience with that, we are familiar with that, we choose another one. And in a life of practice, there's time to try out many different ones, and some of them will become our friends. We will use them often, and others don't seem to be of particular importance to us, but they might be of importance to others. And Ashinamgya continues explaining how mindfulness and alertness sustain the meditation, the focus in meditation. We are on page 54. He would like us to know that while we meditate shamatha, two aspects of mindfulness stabilize our practice. Mindfulness itself, and the second aspect is here translated as alertness. Good translation, we can use that. Mindfulness maintains the stream of awareness and prevents the mind from straying away. So this is the capacity to stay on or in the meditation undistractedly. It's definitely a capacity we know. Now, I sometimes use this example, I like this a lot, to use an example of a child which you send to the bakery to fetch bread. The child, from the moment of leaving the house with the money in the pocket to the bakery and back, has to maintain the focus, the direction of action. And this has to be done uninterruptedly so that the child returns. But the child will encounter temptations, and for a moment meets a friend and gets completely into discussing with a friend, and then alertness comes and says, oops, parents are waiting for the bread. So coming back to the original track and continuing. And this might happen several times, that for a moment, yes, one is distracted, but there is a capacity of alertness to notice that and fetch us, like with a hook, and bring us back on the right track. So you could say both of these aspects of mindfulness, but there's two different words in Sanskrit, Pali, and Tibetan, and so on, which describe these two capacities which we have. And actually, they are a little different. Mindfulness is the interest, the motivation to do what I have set out to practice, to do. So it's a high level of motivation for what I'm about to do. And distraction comes in with something that has a similarly high level of interest. Oops, here we go. Yes, we have and without knowing, the friend I meet on the way, or the memory of something I need to do, for example, which I have forgotten before the meditation, the emotional charge of that memory, of that encounter, of that sensory input is so strong that it destabilizes us. And alertness includes a power of being able to let go of that seeming importance and come back to what we have decided before, not saying that this is unimportant, but right now it is not the most important. I can take care of that later. I will visit my friend later. I might make a date with the friend, and I continue on my track. You understand? So alertness is a very wakeful attitude, knowing that if I get distracted here and there and so on, I will never get anything done. But I want to have this training done, and later on I want to see my friend. Later on I will take care of the phone call, which I forgot. Everything at its time. So alertness is knowing that I can only do one thing at a time and I want to go to completion. I want to complete the task. This is the quality in there. It's a little bit different from the mindfulness, which is maintaining the high interest. So then, an additional advice in that chapter is that we need to balance tightness and looseness, effort and relaxation, to stay in flawless absorption. So, this is an additional training with mindfulness and alertness, that they are also mindful and alert of overexertion and over-relaxation. So we are not only mindful and alert of the contents of what we are doing, but also of how we are doing it. So take the example of the breathing meditation. You're not only aware of incoming, the sensation of the incoming breath, the outflowing breath sensations, but you also notice of how tense we are in the process of meditating on that. And we reduce the unnecessary tension without allowing us to drift away and become drowsy, too relaxed. We heighten our attention when we get sluggish, and we relax the tension when we are too stressed, too much tense. And like this, we find out just how much effort is needed in a given situation. Because depending on how we feel, the time of the day, how much we have eaten, and so on, we need more or less effort. And then the big chapter here, interesting, is then the sub-chapter is the way to practice Śamatha. The explanation starting on page 55, going over 7 pages with some instructions to just how practicing mental calm. To summarize, we eliminate the 5 faults through 8 applications. This is already explained on page 24. We practice the 9 stages of calm abiding. First, we settle the mind. Then we learn to settle the mind continuously, so to have a continuity of presence. And as we get distracted, we practice renewed settling. So the continuity becomes more continuous still because we know how to always come back. Then we increase the settling of the mind and a deeper stability comes. Then we tame our monkey mind wanting to jump to other things by relaxation. We pacify the emotions interfering with the Śamatha practice, or the agitation, the emotional entanglement. We pacify, we stay with the meditation until we reach full pacification, where in the Śamatha practice, emotional afflictions do not arise anymore. And then we begin to experience one-pointedness, deep, undistracted presence. And when that one-pointedness does not need effort anymore, then we have reached the 9th stage, which is called equipoise, deep equanimity, effortless, natural equanimity. Just so. So these 9 stages and 9 methods of practicing Śamatha, yes, you will become familiar with them, and you are encouraged to actually do what you can to progress from the earlier stages to the later ones. There's a certain progression in them. But you don't always have to start on the first and go through all the 9. Sometimes you sit down and the mind is so calm and so settled that there is none of the first stages appearing. You are just with a very little effort, for example, already in one-pointedness. And then we relax that effort as well. At other times, we are struggling with number 1. So agitated that even to follow one breathing cycle is a big challenge. Not to speak of 10 or more. So don't worry, depending on how the day is, how the session is, how we feel, we practice these 9 stages. And one of these stages might be dominant in our practice at any given time. And in doing that, we apply the 6 strengths, 6 forces. And it will be interesting to you to hear about that, because the first strength is called hearing or study. That means during the Śamatha practice, the practice of mental calm, I remember what I have learned. And often you think that should not be the case, but actually it's the so-called inner guru who has learned with the outer guru and remembers an instruction that makes sense. And it's an important stabilizer of practice. If it doesn't turn neurotic, the inner guru could also become a neurotic perfectionist. That's not the meaning here. I remember the valuable Dharma instruction. And second force, I reflect and contemplate the valuable Dharma instruction which I remember. So, for example, I've heard about impermanence, I've learned about it, I've learned that it is very helpful when I'm full of desire, full of the wish to do and to have things and so on. I've heard about that, and then I reflect, I contemplate, and how exactly would it be wise to meditate on impermanence, on change right now in this situation. This is the contemplation, to apply it to myself. And then, of course, one of the third strengths is mindfulness. The fourth one is alertness, so the capacity to maintain and the capacity to bring back. The fifth one is joyful perseverance, the energy. And here, this idea of joyful perseverance, the energy, is one of a determination, an inspired energy that overcomes obstacles. There might be challenges. Say a small challenge. We just had a few minutes ago the sounds of the caterpillar outside. Small challenge. We just continued with the teaching. We continued with that mindfulness. Small challenge. But it can also be door flings open and your partner wants something from you, not respecting the meditation, and you give the information that the partner wants, for example, where you have left your purse with the money to go shopping, whatever. The door goes, closes, and back you are. No clinging. No importance. No, not giving any personal importance to that. Just continue. And you can do that very flexible, very open, responding to the situation, and immediately coming back. There is no obstacle. So an obstacle arises very much when there is a lack of this joyful perseverance. The joy goes away. One feels disturbed, and one takes the so-called obstacle as an excuse to stop one's practice. So obstacles have a lot to do with that one takes them as excuses to drop what one has decided to do. So joyful perseverance just continues, connects with the initial motivation, and continues on the track. Something has happened, it's important enough, it receives our attention, but it does not distract us. And the last one of the list is familiarization. An important word. It's to become familiar, to become habituated, to feel completely at home with the practice. And please take care of that in your personal practice, that you continue in such a way that you are completely at home in your practice, that your mind becomes used to it, that you're so familiar with the practice that without thinking of it, the practice will come back. If I use again the example of meditation on breathing, the awareness of breathing will come back in the middle of something else. One is so familiar that one wakes up at night and it's immediately into the breathing. Or one sits in the car and the awareness of breathing, the mindfulness of breathing comes back by itself. The mantra comes back, the reflection on impermanence comes back. All of these things, they come back by themselves. It's like our home. They are not foreign to us. This is so important. This is how Dharma becomes our own Dharma. It's not a foreign Dharma. It's our home. It's what helps us. It's our best friend. All Dharma is supposed to help. We choose which Dharma to apply. To this Dharma, this method, this instruction that helps us, we give the energy. We have the results, and the friend is one more and more close to our heart, and we remember the friend automatically. We are completely at ease. Remembering the friend, being in the presence of that friend, we relax. Like with a real friend. So the Dharma is practiced in such a way that our mind eases out. Wow. This is how we do it. That's the right track for Shamatha practice. And for all other practice. Enjoying it thoroughly, becoming so familiar that we feel this is close to my nature, this is how I really am. This is exactly it. There might still be a little effort involved, but actually this training which I'm doing now is not making me into another person, but helps me to become more and more the one which I truly am. That's the power of familiarization. We are entering our family, you can say, if we play with the English word. So, and then with all these instructions, with these 6 strengths that were just explained, we progress through the 4 types of attention, which are explained on page 60. And these 4 types of attention are naturally, first of all, when you start training mindfulness, you will remember that you were tightly focused. We were telling ourselves, okay, now I won't lose the focus of meditation. The teacher has taught me, for example, to practice with the breathing. And with all my effort, I maintain the focus. And I'm tight, a little bit overdoing it, more effort than what I will do later on. But I'm like following it very closely. I'm staying with it. And even when I meditate things like compassion, yes, qualities like compassion, then I meditate on compassion. Yes, all those beings in the animal realm. I take in their suffering and I send them all my love and support. And it's like you can see that this tightly focusing is a little overdoing it. But it's good. We're staying with it. Later on, the next stage is that we don't need so much effort. It's called intermittently engaged. We relax the effort, and the price for relaxing the effort is that we will have breaks, there will be distractions, because we're not so tightly focused. But we are more relaxed. So we meditate on compassion. And in the middle of that, we think of the fact that the football season will start again. And we smile about it, we were relaxed, we come back to the meditation. We were not so tightly focused. We can now remain in the meditation much longer than before because we are more relaxed, but there are some gaps. And then, as we learn also to relax those distractions, and then we come to the third experience, level of experience, where we can remain uninterruptedly engaged for long times. In this phase, you will experience that you stay 1 hour, 1.5 hours, 2 hours, 3 hours, and so on, in your meditation without being distracted, just being uninterruptedly engaged. But you also notice that there is still a little bit of excess effort, that there is still maybe a motivation of wanting or of fascination or of being a little bit in love with oneself, meditating and making these experiences. So you relax that more and more, and then you come to the completely spontaneous presence, which is uninterrupted and effortless. And this spontaneous, uninterrupted presence does not leave us day and night. You cannot even chase it away. It's the natural quality of mind to notice whatever is going on. You notice all the thinking processes, the various sensations. There's no distraction. You're always with it. So this is a very highly developed form of being present. Here translated as attention. But actually it's the presence we are talking about. The presence to what is the main focus of our practice. Now imagine, and this is a personal addition of my own, imagine that the focus of your practice is bodhicitta, a Sanskrit word which means awakened mind. That in the Shamatha practice, we take bodhicitta the way an awakened person perceives the world. we take that as our main inspiration. For example, some people meditating on the Chenrezig practice with the Buddha of compassion in this incredible wisdom, this unlimited wisdom, where compassion and wisdom completely unite. And with all our intuitive capacities, we feel into how it must be to live in that attitude, in that understanding, and that openness of the heart. And we come back to it again and again. We begin to it begins to stabilize until it becomes exactly that we wake up with at night. It even comes in our dreams. And although bodhicitta has maybe not yet opened up into non-dual awakened mind, to non-dual bodhicitta, it becomes the center of our life. And we become completely at home with it, because it's just how we were always. We feel this is my true way of being, this is my true self. And we take that as our meditation practice. Then you can be sure that all obstacles to Shamatha meditation, to mental calm, will be taken care of. Because there is no obstacle, no hindrance in meditation that is not connected to self-importance. Now, when we directly meditate in that where there is no self-importance, in the bodhicitta mind, then the obstacles have no nourishment. They don't get any encouragement. There is no one interested. We are much more interested. We are so drawn into that open state of mind where love, compassion, wisdom, understanding, all of that just flow together. They become one quality of open, warm being. Then nothing catches hold. And our mind wants to go there, because that's the closest we have to our nature right then. The only state of mind that is closer to our natural being is when in that bodhicitta, the remaining feeling of someone meditating, someone experiencing bodhicitta, when that also dissolves. So we are already as close as it can be, because we are meditating in awakened mind, still with a certain degree of projection, of intuition, of not really knowing yet, but feeling our way into it. And it is called the supreme of all objects, of all focuses of meditation, to be directed towards bodhicitta. And then the next teaching on vipassana, on insight, will take care of the remaining self-centeredness, which still makes that bodhicitta that we experience in shamatha artificial. So the artificiality of still being someone practicing, a meditator, that will dissolve. Thank you very much.